Hello, dear listeners. Content warnings for this episode include references to drug and alcohol use, distant sound effects of motorcycles and gunshots, interrogations, mind control, flirting, romance, references to sexual intimacy, and standard fantasy violence. Discretion is heavily advised. Now, without further ado, we welcome you to Capricious Provenance.
Episode 1 Off the Rails. 8 of Wands suspended in reverse. As these 8 wands quickly join together in a momentous succession, they kindle action and burst into flame. However, wildfires set ablaze in haste are seldom easy to control. Decisions made under pressure are rarely rational, and words that leave our mouths faster than our minds are never wise. Rushing ahead in careless motion will eventually slow you down. Finch. An airship doesn't creak like a sea vessel. There is no seawater warped wood, no gentle rocking, no mystery to what is below. So when an airship is shot out of the sky, its pristine aerodynamic body lurches into erraticism from uninterrupted movement towards the earth. And when you frantically look around, crewmates, barrels, anything that wasn't tied down fly past you. As you reach out for the hand that guided you here, your fist closes on air. Not air, sound. Laughter. Not malicious, just unaware of how lost you are as you fall into fabric? No, a uniform you wear that denotes your unit. Your gaze falls from the sky to a cephalopod. No, your eyes flicker to a shadow in the corner of your eye. That's what you were looking for. A shadow, no, a woman. With leather riding gloves and a wide-brimmed hat that hide the emerald green eyes that reflected grief instead of light. The light that was no longer there as rain fell onto your face. No, tears that fell in the night as you were stunned into immobility. Your clothes wet from the rain. No, blood from the knife in your back. Your assailant drops the dagger as you turn around. Your enemy, no. Your lover, no. A woman you know who knows nothing of you disappears into the night. No, it's too dark for night. The sky is blocked out by a monster like you. No, an acquaintance. No, a woman whose pale face appears like liquid canvas in a sea of black feathers, roiling like flames around you as you fall to your knees on a path. A path that you've walked before. You feel your body heavy as you lift yourself from the ground, black blood spilling from your wounds as you crawl along the path for an hour, a second, a lifetime, to a black mirror at the end. No, the start. You lift your gaze to glass as you feel the cold prodding of an iron barrel on the back of your head, and you hear the click before you see your own reflection. Calais. At this moment, you could have been dead. At the next, your eldest sister. At the next, your youngest brother. In the moments that follow, so could the end to your family. So could your purpose. This is by design. Your failure hides behind the corner of every second of every hour, and those hours are filled with noise, blood, adrenaline, with death, with careful planning, with panicked improvisation. This is by design. A divine hand lifts a game piece, and you hold your breath for an eternity before it is placed back on the board, and an enemy general is slain. The horror of victory painted across a bleeding oracle, a wayward Ouroboros, a bleeding fury, a stalwart obelisk, a tear-streaked wind, a hoof-beaten light, a newborn goddess. Violence by any name foolishly soaking the soils of a land time has purposefully forgotten, while the pieces dance across the board in anticipation for another game. This is by design. The ringing of victory echoes endlessly, drowning out the hushed contemplations of the observers, developers, parents. A silence not afforded to their children accentuates the varied opinions, the approaching footsteps, the fathomless guilt on which this existence was founded upon. For the children, the pieces in the game, there is no peace. It was never an option. This is by design. But this is all you've ever known. The weariness, the empty, the duty, the purpose. It was all for the end goal. Peace. You believe, in the face of opposition, that the impossible is possible for someone like you. That bloodshed bleeds a path around the failures that live in every moment. This is by design. Snowy. It could have been anybody. The freezing winds howl, the blizzard reducing visibility to a white void. You crouch in the snow, tears freezing against your fur. You are alone. Again? You've been alone before, haven't you? But are you ever alone when you're with a corpse? Not in your experience. They always get back up. But maybe you are still alone. They aren't who you remember them to be. You remember them, right? Him? Your father. The two figures in the distance. Actually, the reanimated corpse lunging for your throat. Who even was that? You lived in a castle. What? A cave. Why would anyone come to a cave? Why would they murder somebody they met there? Your mother, your father, was the kindest man you've ever known. The winds never seem to stop howling, even when you need the silence to mourn, to think, to remember. You don't even notice how you aren't cold at all. You're warm. More than warm. You're burning up. Revenge boils inside of you and threatens to erupt, but all that spills from your screams is more ice, more wind, more endless white void obscuring what you know. The answers are here. They have to be here. That freezing hot fury has to take you somewhere, and you'll find them, the murderer, your memories, your reason for living. You run towards... what? Or are you running away? Why do you never have the answers? You're just like anyone else. Why you? Why is the wind so loud? Why is all that you cared for gone? You can't see anything. Wait. What is that? Who is that? Who are you? You could have been anybody. But instead, you're Sasha. Sylvanus. You were raised in special circumstances. You were given a good life, an amazing friend, and even better opportunities. There was nothing for you to complain about as a child, adopted by the guardians of the Eldian Reaches. You lost nothing from this partnership, save what you didn't know. A clap on the shoulder, a congratulations on your breakthrough. Your academic team rejoices as theory becomes practice. Your accomplishment, while in no small part was due to your intellect and dedication, is credited to you, omitting the watchful gaze of that which allowed you to make this discovery. You lost nothing from this partnership, save what you didn't know. You handed in your research with pride, an advancement in our understanding of magic itself, how it can be manipulated, utilized, harnessed. You continue to learn so much. It was almost too good to be true for a scholar like yourself. Knowledge beyond what is normally possible for anyone. All that knowledge, and your partner, your patron, didn't tell you what became of your discovery. But it actually cost. You're always being watched, but rarely were you told what to watch for. Even when you shed yourself of that forbidden knowledge that poisoned partnership and forged a new path, the eyes of one became many. An audience of the damned to cheer at your accomplishments, to laugh and mourn at your expenses. You watch yourself now across a stage. Your theories, your practice becomes art. Though the music was never quite right. The violin was always more sinisterly sorrowful than what you had imagined. A backdrop to a comedic tragedy you unknowingly tuned out while someone else watched in silence as you lit the fuse to the explosives backstage. But for you, it's a celebration once again. This time of your freedom, your privacy, on display. You lost nothing in this partnership, save what you didn't know. And in all your knowledge, you never knew how much they all knew about you. Sylvanus. The rays of sunlight peeking through a window begin to stir you awake, and you open your eyes, surrounded in a pile of elegant burgundy and wine bedsheets. It is at this time that you realize you are no longer in your subconscious. You try to ground yourself in your body, but it feels like the past 6 months are suddenly catching up to you. You remember that you have to meet back up with your friends. Calais, Snowy, Finch, and Podlodge. But perhaps friends is too familiar a label, as you're all colleagues working for a secret organization called DASK. You remember this organization is funding the revolution, at least that's what you were told, for the nation of Drome's independence, through organized crime operations all over the world. After settling back into yourself, you finally recall what you were reaching for. Your party has a train to catch today. Your party also has to travel with Zaeren, one of the Dask council members that you work under. But as you're recalling all of this information, Sylvanus, make a Constitution saving throw.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. Okay. A 19.
You are now fully awake in Lady Serena Fowlin's large canopied bed. And you are, to your surprise, not tired, despite your lack of sleep. So, you got a long rest. Serena is not in bed with you, but you can hear the clattering of plates downstairs.
Sylvanus is a bright periwinkle blue tiefling, dusted with faded fawn spot freckles and large indigo stag horns that protrude from their forehead like the curling branches of a tree. His stark white eyes look around the room curiously, ears like a moth's wing flicking with their observations, and a blue tail tipped with feather-white hair wraps around his leg. His long, pale cream hair glows like moonlight and is tied into a thick, heavy braid that falls over his shoulder and down his back before being finished off with a satin ribbon.
Sylvanus stretches his long, slender limbs, now sporting a few brand new marks in unseen places. And he gazes around at all the opulence with new clarity in the morning light. His face is an interesting mix of well-rested bliss and deer-in-the-headlights confusion. He's absolutely never woken up in someone else's bed before. He dresses quickly, haphazardly buttoning his shirt and tidying his hair to look presentable for his gracious host. And then he timidly makes his way downstairs to see what all the commotion is.
You go downstairs and quickly realize that Serena is having her unseen servants prepare a breakfast of jammed pastries and coffee. Serena Fowlin is a brown, half-elven woman with sharp facial features and soft curves hidden under her silken robes. If it were not for the loosely tied bun, her shining black hair would be reaching the floor. She is sitting at the table with a plate for herself already made, a smile revealing teeth you would only notice were sharpened up close. Good morning. I figured I could send you off with a little something before you leave. I know you have somewhere to be.
Oh, that's very kind. He makes his way over to the table, taking a seat across from her, and says, Thank you so much for your hospitality and, everything. You made it a nice visit before I have to head off to the Lazar Principalities. He's a little flustered, sort of tapping his claws together while he watches the unseen servants cook, making very pointed, not eye contact with her, and blushing.
You feel the sort of almost watchful, semi-oppressive nature of the paintings of various scandals, murders, adulteries, secrets being told, painted on the wall, sort of melt away as she continues to speak. You know, if you need anything from me, I guess I'm now just a pen stroke away. You said you can write messages to whoever signs your grimoire?
His ears perk up, and he loses a little bit of that blush. He says, yes, more or less. I can only message a handful of people, but I'm excited to test it, see if it works. I tried yesterday evening, but my friend wasn't the most responsive. I think he was drunk. Still, I hope this will be a nice way for us to talk, even when I'm far away. And along that note, and he starts to retrieve his book. I was wondering if you could look into something for me while I'm gone. I don't know how much you know about the other upper-class folks of Sharn, but I figure you would know more than I. There's someone a friend of mine is looking into. It's very important to her, so...
Serena stirs her coffee with her spoon just a bit and says, back to business so soon.
Oh, well, I suppose it could wait until after coffee.
I'm teasing you. What is it you need me to look into?
He squints at the name written in the corner of his book. a nobleman necromancer named Caldrisir Kurtvak?
You say that name. She takes a long sip of her coffee before putting the porcelain cup down. What nature of information do you need?
Oh, anything you can find. Anything to do with his whereabouts. It seemed very urgent.
It's a Karn name, I can tell you that. Is he in Karnath? Or here in Sharn? Were you told anything about him?
Well, not much. He was last seen in Eberron, said something about being accompanied by some high-ranking members of Sharn Watch, ties to the blood of Vol.
Ah. She taps her cheek with a maroon fingernail. That may get a little dicey. I'll see what I can find out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for even considering it. But please, don't do anything that would put you in danger. My friend would understand if it was too much, I'm sure.
Well, I'm curious about your friend's business now, so...
I see. He takes a little sip of his coffee. I hope it's interesting enough to satisfy you.
You'd be surprised. You both share a brief breakfast, and after, Serena walks you to the door, and as you leave, Serena will sort of hang on the doorway and say, "Well, don't be a stranger next time you're around."
He flushes, and you can see behind him his tail sort of flipping back and forth really rapidly. I'll try to make the time between our visits a little shorter, if I can help it. Dask is sending us halfway across the world to acquire some allies.
You know what they say, work is work.
Yes, feels like that's all we do. I think we deserve a little break sometimes. Well, goodbye, Serena. I'll see you.
She gives you a smile, and the door behind you closes.
Sylvanus does the cartoon thing where you run and you click your heels together and when you jump.
Sylvanus, you skip down the sidewalks of Upper Sharn, and as we move past these buildings, we are finding our way across town in Middle Sharn, outside a very unassuming looking tavern. Calais, Finch, snowy. Similar to Sylvanus, memories from the previous night seem to blend into the new day as you all awaken roughly around the same time. Today, you awaken knowing that you are all expected to meet up with Zaeren, the Dask Council member accompanying you to the Lazar Principalities. How are you starting your day?
Finch is under the bed, hungover. He crawled under there yesterday night after Kaza visited, and she really, really doesn't want to come out. Finch is a half-elf with warm light skin, orange in undertone with freckles spilling over her face. Their curly hair and ombre sunset of rich reds, oranges, and yellows is a stark contrast to the all-black attire that they have. A cropped shirt shows off their tattooed arms, and a crisscrossing harness of belts flow into functional pants that are barely considered under his signature thigh-high leather boots hugging tightly to their runner's thighs. A long quill hangs from her ears, shadowed by an elegant wide-brimmed hat, and one gold-brown eye is visible while the other eye is covered by a wrap of fine white silk. Finch is usually seen wearing a sharp smirk on his lips, but recently that smirk has been downturned in annoyance, having been coerced from their usual nesting place.
I think Calais would still be the first to rise out of everyone. Calais appears to be an elf with russet brown skin and freckles that reflect sunlight dusting his cheekbones. His pointed ears have a curious equine quality about them, but you would sooner notice the single blue horn protruding from their forehead. Calais is not only an elf, but an Aasimar, and this particular symbol of their divinity is only visible to anyone who believes in unicorns. His left eye is a bright opalescent blue, while his right eye glows with a golden celestial fury he carries around like a burden. He unbraids his hair, and lengthy black curls with silver streaks unfurl down their back. They'll sit up on the bed that Finch is currently under, and Snowy is halfway on. He'll look around after stretching. Is Snowy still in the same place she was last night?
Yeah, Snowy is still laying half on, half off the bed, and her hair is a mess. Snowy is a pale monochrome snow leopard shifter. Black rosettes are scattered across her cheekbones and down her neck where they are hidden under the collar of her tunic. Her wide yellow eyes blink slowly, seemingly relaxed as her clawed hand methodically taps on her thigh. The only thing to betray her calm posture was her soft, rounded feline ears as they swivel around atop her head, following every sound they could pick up. And when Calais gets up, she'll begrudgingly start to move. Very slow. Similar in color to her silver to black ombre hair that has been tied up in a half bun, her thick tail swings back and forth near the floor, paws rest firmly on the ground, always ready to react at a moment's notice. They almost trip on Finch's head while they're at it.
I think Calais would get out of bed, stand up and stretch one more time, trying to get all the sleep out of their body, and they'll ask, "Did you all sleep well last night, or..."
If you count being knocked out the sleeping, then yes, I slept pretty well.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a dream that Kaza was here last night, right? Like, we all didn't collectively imagine a harpy woman perched in our window.
Sometimes I forget she's a DAS council member, and not just a figment of our imagination.
Finch pushes themselves fully under the bed. You hear shuffling. We'll talk about it later. My head hurts.
That's right. You had a lot to drink last night. Calais shakes their head at that passively and then looks around the room as if trying to find somebody else. And then they go, "Sylvanus isn't with us, that's right. I wonder how his night went."
I mean, I assume they got laid.
You assume...
Well, do you think Sylvanus can't get laid?
No, that was just a very big assumption on your part, Finch. Maybe they were just kind enough to let them sleep in there.
I don't know about that. I mean, I did say earlier that something may happen with his lady friend. But yes, perhaps he just had a good night and just slept on her couch.
Well, she's very rich, apparently, so maybe she has a guest room.
The guest room. Thank you for your insight, Calais.
Anyway, where is Podloach?
Yes, where is Podloach? That is the question. Podloach sort of clears his throat, making a sound only a grung can make as he jumps down from being camouflaged on the wall. He grabs his scarf and staff, and he is already making his way out of the room. His little green grung legs carrying him as fast as he can to go retrieve some sort of breakfast downstairs. The kitchen scent is sort of beginning to waft into the room.
Well, Podloach has the right idea, I think. We should probably get breakfast before we're late for the train. Do you need help off the floor?
No, I'm staying here. I'll meet you downstairs.
Calais sort of rolls their eyes. All right, whatever you say. Snowy and I will save you a seat.
Snowy kneels down and reaches under the bed and pats Finch's head a few times. Remember to eat some protein, okay? And then gets up and goes to leave the room.
You're all able to get some breakfast, salted meats, roasted vegetables. And by the time it would have arrived, Sylvanus would have made his way to the tavern.
You'll spot Sylvanus looking a little disheveled, shirt half buttoned, hair tied very messily and loosely. It looks like he just woke up and had a little bit of a entertaining evening. He spots you, gives you a sheepish little wave, and hurries over to the table. Hello, friends. Did you have a nice evening? I got a very fun message from Finch, so I assume it was fun.
Finch slowly looks at you with her one visible eye. I don't... What message did I send?
It was less than coherent, but it sounded like you were happy.
Ah, okay, good. Yes, we did something? We talked to I.
That's nice. There's a little silence as he kind of glances to the other two.
Calais looks between everyone for a second and then takes the silence as a cue and says, "Yes, we spoke to Eye Candy last night. She paid us 200 gold in exchange for us telling her about our adventures in the Demon Waste. Business is booming, as it turns out, and she also gave Finch and I some silly tea."
Silly tea?
Yeah, silly tea, and Finch and I ended up being very silly.
I can't imagine. I really missed out, didn't I?
Indeed. Snowy looks very amused when Calais says this. Oh yes, they were very, very silly. First time they were silly, and I wasn't. It was a very interesting night.
I assume it went well.
All I remember is all the bodies I took shots off of, but
That's it. Sylvanus, did you have fun in the guest room at your friend's house?
and Finch looks at Calais while saying that.
That's many things at once. Body shots? Okay.
I do not remember doing any of that.
I remember all of that.
I don't know what that means, but yes, Finch, I had a nice time. A very nice dinner.
Yes, it looks like you had a great time. Good for you.
Thank you. He blushes. I guess.
Finch just goes back to eating.
Sylvanus looks at Calais, really confused. Like, what?
Calais is still looking at Finch for a few moments, and after another second, they turn and look at Sylvanus and go, "Oh, pay them no mind. We just had a discussion about, not a discussion, really. It doesn't actually
Snowy
matter that
leans
much."
forward towards Sylvanus and, mock whispers, "They want to know if you fucked."
His ears raise, kind of like a cat when they're startled. He looks around between the three of you, blushing, a little nervous. You were discussing that,
Oh, not me, not really. I'm just here for the ride. But these two aren't saying anything, even though they obviously want to know. So,
Well, he sort of... You can watch him sort of absent-mindedly shift to close his shirt a little more. Does it matter?
Calais sort of looks into their goblet of orange juice. It doesn't matter, Sylvanus. I'm so sorry. We weren't discussing it per se. We were just wondering if your night went well.
You two are no fun.
No fun.
No fun.
I was sorry to be a buzzkill.
Sylvanus, looks at Snowy, his eyes just wide and terrified, and then he laughs nervously, kind of tapping his claws on the table,
Well, yes, I hope
I mean,
that
you shouldn't expect for him to relay this to you in graphic detail. I don't know what your definition of fun is.
Gods, no! Listen. I am so sorry I asked about your fuck details. I will never do so again.
Thank you. No, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I wasn't expecting. Yes, I did, and it was fine. It was.
Okay. And Finch just goes back to eating. They're super hungover and not having a good morning.
Sylvanus just nervously looks at Snowy and mouths, "What is wrong? What happened?"
Oh man. Snow was barely coherent when all of that went down with Kaza, so she kind of shrugs and moves her goblet of water towards Sylvanus. Here you go. Just offering him a drink.
Kaza also paid us a visit last night.
Ugh.
And that's probably why Finch is in a bad mood.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did something happen with Dask?
Listen. Finch immediately puts their hand in the middle of the conversation, the movement so sudden in contrast to how slow he's been moving this morning. We'll talk about it sometime later. I got some information that I have to look into, but I don't want to do that this morning, because this morning I'm going to have a good morning. And then Finch takes one single potato tot and puts it in his mouth before retracting her hand and no longer speaking.
You're all able to finish up breakfast after an awkward conversation. Nonetheless, you all still have a few hours before you have to be at the train station. Is there anything you would like to do?
Sylvanus is going to write a letter to his old university friends, Clifford, the lore keeper at Fairhaven, and Lilac of the Eldine Reaches.
Yeah, that's going to be 2 gold pieces for a Griffin courier to fly some letters out.
I don't think he sent them a letter in a very long while, so he really takes his time to catch them both up. He goes on and on about all of the adventures he's been having and everything that he's seen, and it is a long and rambling letter, but I think he'll also ask them if anything strange has been going on. He remembers Dask reporting incidents of people being found dead in the Eldine Reaches and thinks they might know something about that.
Finch is going to disappear from the group for a bit to make a deposit at the bank with some of the money that he got from eye candy.
Yeah, you separate from the group and head over to the bank.
She'll go up to the bank teller and ask to deposit about like 50 gold into the joint account that she has open. And then after she pushes the gold onto the table, they'll ask, did anyone make withdrawals from this account since my last deposit?
The teller takes the gold from you, pages through the arcane bookkeeping device that they have behind the desk, and they look up and say, "No, last transaction was your previous deposit, about 6 months ago."
Okay. Finch nods in silence.
Is there anything else I can do for you today?
No, that would be all. Thank you. Finch tips their hat lower over his face, then slowly makes her way back to the others.
After you all run your errands, you make your way to the train station to find Zaeren waiting for you there. You all remember Zaeren from the Dask War Table meetings. He's a fairly tall, half-elven man with bronze skin, brown eyes, dark, hickory, curly hair that covers his head and chin. He's got a classic full beard. He's just a very hairy individual. You all notice that he's got even more hair on his chest because he's wearing a low-cut, cross-stringed tunic. And you'll see him make a sort of half-wave as he spots you. You all made it. Good. Have your tickets ready? The train's going to arrive soon. And not long after, you all see the lightning rail approach. It's a massive metal train with this metallic steel color reflecting rays of sunlight as it pulls in. You see the etching into its side the profile of an ornate unicorn head, which is the dragon mark of passage of House Orient.
Sylvanus is gonna nudge Calais and go, "Haha, look, it's just like you."
House Orient developed and owns the lightning rail system. The curious thing about this kind of train is that it has no wheels, just arcs of blue electricity jolting between the bottom of the train and the tracks. As it comes to a halt in the station, it sort of lowers itself into the tracks that it was hovering over, locks into place as the doors slide open and passengers begin to exit. Zaeren says, "Not to be that person, but I enjoy my privacy. I bought an entire booth for myself. If you need me, I'll be about 3 cars down. Otherwise, I'll see you in the meal car when it's time to eat, I suppose."
Oh, sure. Have a nice trip.
I just plan to sleep. And he walks into another section to enter the train. As you all board the train, you see a human attendant with the dragon mark of passage, and their uniform is chromatic in nature. They check your tickets, let you through, and direct you to your seats. You all have a booth with a retractable table and seating on either side, with thick curtains that you can pull over for privacy. It takes a little while to get all the passengers aboard, but once they are, you hear the attendant make announcements. There's going to be a lot of stops, but you all know that you'll be getting off in the mountain city of Krona Peak, the very last stop of this particular lightning rail system. This trip will last about 4 days, and there's a dining car, so if you want to eat, you can pay a little bit per day for that. After everyone is seated and announcements have been made, you feel the train rise underneath you, and you hear the electricity outside beginning to spark and arc along the underside of the train, and it takes off very quickly. You can actually see through the window of your booth how fast you're going past everything in the environment. It's called the lightning rail for a reason.
Oh, Snowy, how fantastic are trains! Sylvanus rushes over to get a window seat.
Snowy goes over to the other window and she's literally smashing her face up against it. This is the fastest I have ever gone in my life.
Y'all look, and these two are just pressing their faces against the window.
While this is happening, Calais shifts their gaze over to the leftover seats and says, "Well, I guess I'll sit across from Finch." And they make a point not to make eye contact with them as he sits down. "So we're supposed to be here for the next 4 days."
Yes, but I'm sure we'll find something fun to do.
Well, Finch said I was no fun, so I suppose I'm at an impasse. Whoop.
After sort of adjusting to the awe of this massive machine that he's on, Podloge approaches the booth, and he is going to reach into his little pouch and start placing cards on the table.
Oh, what card game is this?
He looks up at you and gives you a look like, "Why would you ask me that?" And then just deals you a hand of playing cards.
Oh, okay, alright.
You can see that he doesn't quite know when to stop, and he's expecting someone to tell him when to stop giving you cards.
Finch doesn't tell him to stop. She just keeps putting her hand out for more.
You do that until the deck is in your hands, and then he just starts taking them back, one by one.
Finch moves the cards away to protect them.
He just sticks out a tongue to try to nab it. Make a deck save.
That's a 14.
You manage to keep it away from Podloge, but his tongue does hit your face instead.
No, it doesn't look very good on you to be a sore loser, Podloge.
He looks like he does not even understand what that means.
You lost because I kept them all.
Again.
You know what, actually? This is fun for me. Sure, I'll do it again.
Alright, so, day 1 of the train. What is everyone up to?
Calais is going to turn to Sylvanus next to him and go, I hate to interrupt your sightseeing, but I have a question or two for you.
Oh, it's fine. The outside will still be there.
Right. Well, concerning your new patron, Their name is The Stage, correct?
Correct?
Right, so if I'm also recalling this correctly, The Stage is also a patron for performers. I want to know how that it works for you, exactly.
Well, that was kind of the same question I had for them. I'm no performer. I don't sing or dance. I don't act. Though I have. I don't think I'm very good, but anyway, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to do anything at all, but the stage wants me to write for them. Write the stories of all our adventures. And then they get sort of acted out, performed, on a large puppet theater in the stage's dream realm while I sleep. And all of the other people the stage made a pact with is the audience, so, I guess I write plays now?
Calais' ears sort of pop up in interest, and he goes, "They perform our adventures with puppets?"
Oh, yes, actually, it's kind of cool. He lights up, visibly. Sometimes these big, life-sized mannequins are made to perform all of our encounters and battles and...
I wish I could see that. I wonder what we look like. Do they even have Podloach there with you?
Well, anything I write down gets acted out, so yes, there is a little Podloach puppet. Everyone seems to really enjoy them. I wish I could show you. You're all a little famous, I suppose. I think you'd have to make a pact with the stage in order to see it, though, and we all have a sort of mind palace situation going on where we can all talk to each other when we sleep. That sounds crazy when I say it out loud.
Well, I certainly wouldn't know anything about that, but thank you for explaining it to me. I'm glad it's working out for you.
Thank you for asking. The stage is a lot nicer than my previous patron, so I don't mind talking about it.
Finch cradles her head in one of their hands and has been watching you two talk, eye darting back and forth between the conversation like a ping pong ball, listening.
Snowy is reading her book on herbology.
Finch is going to lean over as his eye wanders over to you, Snowy. Then pokes your arm a couple times with one of their blunter nails.
I look up with a raised eyebrow.
What are you studying?
Herbology?
Oh.
I feel like it's a good skill to have. I don't know if you know this, but back at Dask, that potion maker, Odin, keeps mentioning wanting the help of someone who can identify plants. I just thought I could be the one to take the task on.
Okay, let's test your knowledge out. Do you know what plant this is?
Then Finch will lay their arm over your book and point at that tattoo on his arm. She has a tattoo of a certain plant.
I know what it is, but I want to see what you say it is.
Make a nature check, Snowy.
That's a 10.
Oof, yeah. That sure is a plant. You think you may have seen it before, but you don't know the answer.
Oh man, that sure is a plant. I'm still learning. I'll get it eventually, but I don't really know what that is. Would you like to share?
Of course.
Finch eases off the book a bit and from his teasing.
Yes, it's called the belladonna, nightshade. It's very poisonous, though I think it depends on how much you take of it. If you take a little too much, you die. But if you don't, it enlarges your pupils, among other things. And you know that high that you had before? I assume it feels something like that, right? But a little bit more dangerous.
Oh! That's certainly beautiful, though.
Ah, well, beautiful things can be dangerous.
And they'll wink.
That was a wink, by the way. I know I have to start saying this. Forget I have an eye patch.
Now I'll finally understand when you make jokes like that. And Snowy does an exaggerated wink back.
Ugh, you're all getting so sassy.
And Finch leans back as a smirk curves the corner of his lip.
I'm enjoying it.
hanging with all of you is really rubbing off on me. But I think it's fun that I'm becoming more sassy, as you said.
Ah, I'm so glad you understand. Well, I'm getting bored, so I'm going to sit here and bother you until you tell me more things about your plants, or until you tell me to leave.
Do you want to sit and read along with me?
Oh, sure.
Snowy makes room and holds the book out for both of them.
Both of you make nature checks for me. This is just to see how much of this information you're retaining.
Ooh, that is a 21!
And 17.
Finch, this successfully keeps your brain occupied. You find it somewhat interesting. Snowy, you find that you're starting to understand how to identify plants by their leaf shape, their fruit, their medicinal properties, whether or not they're dangerous. All in all, you both learned quite a bit. Later, towards the evening, you all make your way to the dining car. There's a number of attendants taking orders to the kitchen car and back, pushing around some trays. The car is pretty crowded, but you can get a table to yourself, and Zaeren joins you. We'll say you're all finished up with your meal when he pipes up and says, So, I don't know about any of you all, but I'm enjoying fast travel that doesn't involve me having to control anything.
Does using your storm dragon mark abilities get really exhausting for you?
Zaeren puts his fork down and says, something like that.
Well, then I'm glad you're getting a break. Can't be easy.
Making the most of it while I can, because I know it won't last very long.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Well, if we're successful in our mission in the Lizard Principalities, I know I'm going to have a bigger workload.
Could you remind me what exactly our mission is?
We're investigating the new High Prince of the Lizard Principalities. They overthrew the last High Prince of the Seas, and has been openly hostile towards everyone since. Other nations, pirate ships, trading merchants, even the other sea princes were also potentially dealing with, vampires.
Oh, that's right. Didn't this High Prince also... He sort of flips through his book till he finds a note. Ah, yes. Didn't they recently involve themselves with the blood of Vol? That's quite dangerous.
You'd be correct, which is why we sent Bonnie or Bladebreaker, I can't remember, another DAS Council member, ahead to aid in recruiting more allies. I'll be there to see if there are any storm handlers like myself in the area that would be apt for the cause. I don't know how many will join us, or even if we have a sufficient number. Somebody's going to have to teach them, and likely that's going to be preoccupying a lot of my time. And Zaeren reclines in his seat, crosses his arms. But I don't know. Kaza never gives me enough details for me to be sure of everything or anything. At the same time, she seems to have everyone always convinced that things will work out because she has connections.
Finch will play with his fork, twirling it.
I know you value your alone time, but do you have any time between now and when we arrive at Krona Peak where I could ask you a couple of questions?
He just takes a long drink of water from his glass and starts fixing himself to get up. Sure, yeah. My car's 3 behind yours.
I'll find you.
Right, well, I'm tired. You all have a good night. And he gets up, heads back. After dinner, y'all eventually head back to your booth. The seats can all be converted into a sort of sleeping area. It's not the most comfortable place to sleep, but it's not the worst thing in the world. You all wake up this day and find that you are passing through the nation of Arndare. You see lots of sprawling fields and farmlands. Eventually, you look above the horizon, and you will see floating bits of land with massive towers and structures built on top of them, suspended several hundred feet in the air. There are a number of small floating carriages that you see flying between these structures, as well as flying creatures seeming to transport people between these floating islands. At some point in Sylvanus, you can even see in the distance, past these rolling hills, the spires of Fairhaven University. It may be miles and miles away from you, but the structure is so large you would recognize it immediately.
I think Sylvanus gives a sort of bittersweet smile as he looks out the window. He'll think about how long it's been since he's attended university in Arndare and look back fondly on the memory of learning in those halls with his friends.
On this day, Finch, do you go find Zaeren?
Yeah, she'll find him.
Easy enough. You follow instructions and arrive outside the booth.
Knock, knock, tap, tap.
Come on in.
Finch will pull aside the curtain, checking for bugs or any indication that someone might be spying at them, and look around the room before addressing Zaeren at all.
Make a perception check.
17.
I mean, you don't see any abnormalities. Zaeren is alone, and you can see that he was kind of leaning up against the window, and he straightens himself up a bit.
Okay, well, in that case, after investigating, Finch will sit down and make himself real comfortable. Like, she'll slouch backwards on the chair a bit, crossing one leg over the other, and look up through a curtain of hair. Okay, so my first question is, do you know much about vampires?
You say that, and it kind of gives you a look. And then, not particularly.
Well, if I recall correctly, vampires are something that we are supposed to look out for in the Lazar Principalities, so I thought you might have known something.
I mean, they're undead. They drink blood. They have massive egos, and an aversion to silver and sunlight.
Finch nods curtly. The second question you might not know too much about, but we've been working for your organization for a while, and now we're playing a very important role in it. I'm very uncomfortable with how little I know about these daughters of Sorakel.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you there.
Do they just talk to Ascahora, or are there, any other members of Dask that they talk to?
He takes a moment to think, as if he's wondering what he should tell you. While I may have been given a sort of a seat at the Dask's little council, I'm a recent addition. I know why they want me there, but I have my skepticism as much as you do. The daughters, truthfully, I don't know their ultimate goals. I don't even think Ascahora does. But seeing as they're the ones funding and supporting this little operation, whatever goals are set forth seem to be theirs as well. I personally do not have contact with the daughters of Sorakel, and I do not know if I want contact with them.
And if I can be plain, I have been interested in contact with them, and I will continue to. But enough about them. Finch turns her body more towards Zaeren. You are a part of this organization because you too believe in the goal, right? That's the only reason you are participating?
I mean, you have to admit it's nice to have a salary.
Hey, I'm not judging.
But, yes, there are some things I don't fully agree with in some execution of how this organization works. But if I don't have to live in a world where I am watching my back constantly, then I think these people have my best interest in mind. Do you understand?
Yes, of course I do. Very straightforward logic. Once again, no judgment.
He leans in closer to Zaeren as if conspiring.
I'm just trying to understand what the fuck I'm doing. Finch speaks very calmly through his frustration, and then looks out the window for a second before speaking again.
Because this is way too big, and we have an important role to play for these people we've never met. And I'm just trying to understand everything I possibly can. And if you have anything that will help me out, please let me know.
Make a persuasion check.
19.
Can I ask you to do something for me?
Oh! Is that fair? Finch asks the room more than Zaeren, taking a second to think about it, and shrugs. You can ask.
In the event that you find yourselves in a compromising position with our employers, let's remain allies.
Her visible eyebrow raises in surprise, and they consider it for a moment. I didn't know you thought so highly of me.
I don't know who you are. I don't know why you're here, honestly. But I trust skepticism in working with powerful people.
Then I think we have a lot in common. As long as you're not doing a double-crossing, backstabbing situation, then, yes. I'll keep my eye out and maybe send you some information if I get any.
And maybe I'll do the same for you.
Perfect. Then she'll slap the table to get up and mosey on out.
Before you walk away, as you're leaving, you hear Zaeren go, "Just be careful. They have eyes."
Yes, that's what I was figuring. Will do. And he leaves calm and collected, acting like that conversation never happened.
On the third day, you are currently passing through Carnath, and as you look outside, what cities you can see off in the distance seem very militaristic in their construction. There are some forests and some snow-covered plains, but something about Carnath seems dead. There's not a lot of life in Carnath, quite literally. Calais, as you're sitting in the booth, your mind is starting to wander a bit, and your brain is starting to go a bit numb from all the card games you've been playing with Podloge. You get a familiar sensation. You feel like you're about to have a splitting migraine. And you go to press your palm to your forehead. And you have a vision. You find yourself looking down at a ship, sitting in a crow's nest. You can see the ocean around you, and you can smell the salt air. You hear the cry of seagulls overhead and the chattering of people moving, and you hear something unmistakably familiar. You hear people laughing below. The one voice among that laughter is familiar. It's Bonnie. You know to be a Dask council member. And it's odd, because you know you were supposed to meet with her in the Lazar Principalities in a few weeks' time. But right now, strangely, it feels like you're actually there with her. And then you're back in the train car. It was as if you were somehow seeing through somebody else's eyes and senses for a few moments. The headache sensation you had is gone now, and you're left with a bittersweet, melancholy feeling. A warm assurance combined with a cold loneliness.
Calais will put down the cards he was holding in his hand and shake their head a bit, trying to stir themselves back into their body. and they wonder just whose eyes he was looking through in that vision. And they touch their heart as they look out the window, motion their hand over where their heart is, and sort of sitting in presence with the emotions that didn't belong to him.
Evening comes. You all rest. The next day arrives, and you see you are all still traveling in Karnath for this final stretch, but heading towards the mountains of the Moror Holds, slowly rising in elevation. After breakfast, snowy. As your friends begin to return to the booth, you hear a voice call out behind you softly. Excuse me.
Yes? Snowy turns around to see who's talking to them.
You see a human woman with dark skin and dark, well-made clothing. It's not fancy noble wear, but rather functional gear with a high-quality weave. This individual is also wearing a veil over the top half of her face, so it's completely obscured, and a cloak. May I have a word with you?
She kind of squints at them, rigid and straight-faced. Can I do an insight to see if she means Snowy any harm?
You can try to discern that, yeah.
That would be a 7.
Seems like this person wants to talk to you.
Alright. Snowy goes, well, I don't see any harm in that, sure.
If you don't mind, I believe my booth is behind yours. We can have a bit of privacy there. And sort of gestures for you to follow her and sit down for a chat.
She shrugs and follows.
You can see as she's moving, she does have what seems to be utility belts and traveling packs at her hips. She'll lead you into her booth if you choose to sit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if this seems unexpected, but my name is Tibia Lovelace. I'm a paladin of the inner divinity, and I have reason to believe that you have been involved in something that has become business of my faith.
What do you mean?
More specifically, I know that you, and some of the individuals you are traveling with, may have attended an illegal auction at the Mad Warlock's Tower in Sharn, run by a Julger, a defectee from House Tarkanan. Am I correct in saying this?
Snowy's eyes sort of narrow at that. And if we did?
I am not an officer of the law. I am not here to chastise or punish you for whatever you may have done. That is none of my business. But what you may have absconded with from that auction is...
It seems like a lot of people want this ledger. We've been attacked for it, even if we didn't have it in our possession. What exactly is it?
So you do not have it?
No.
What it contains is information pertinent to our divine mission, and I'm afraid that it, perhaps, has fallen into the wrong hands, and I'm asking for the location, so that I might put it back into proper hands.
And what exactly is your mission, if I may
That is
ask?
not something I have the liberty to discuss with someone who is not of the inner divinity. Snowy, you would remember that you gave the ledger to Dahlia of the Trust. The Trusts are a sort of primarily gnome-run secret police that are based out of Zolargo.
Oh! Snowy kind of looks out the train window and thinks to herself, man, this is above my pay grade. She looks back and says, I don't know where it is currently.
Tibia exhales a bit. Oh, you don't.
No.
Then what exactly did you do with it?
The last I saw it, I handed it to someone that I don't necessarily know. If I may be blunt, it was a long time ago that I cannot remember.
That is partially true, but also mostly a lie, so I think that's a deception check.
That's a 3.
Uh-huh. She doesn't say anything, but it feels like forever before she does finally speak. I don't think you understand.
You're right, I don't.
That ledger had no business being where it was. It had no business being taken. It had no business being handed off or sold. I need to know the location of that ledger, and I was hoping that I would only have to ask for it.
Well, I am not usually one to give information to random cloaked strangers that I don't know or trust.
Then what would encourage you?
Just give me a little crumb of what your mission is, perhaps? Because you're not the only one who's been after this thing, and the last time someone tried to get it from us, things went to shit. And me and my friends got hurt. So, sorry if I'm reluctant to tell you what it
You
is.
are in no position as someone who is not involved in the creation or acquisition or the importance of that ledger to be making demands.
Well, damn! What position do I got to be in? Channeling that inner Finch.
As the tension in this booth begins to heighten, you hear something faint. Sound almost like sand being poured out of something. And it sounds like it's coming from the booth that you're in. You look down, and you just catch the last of this fine powder being poured out of the 2 canisters at this woman's hips and onto the floor of the booth. One of the canisters poured out is this sort of light colored white beige sand, and the other poured out is something similar in texture but black. Your eyes dart back up to her. You see that black substance begin to snake its way up this individual's body and begin to harden into a more full concrete form. It's always so difficult. And for what? This black substance covers her face and forms a sort of protective cow skull helmet as this extends and forms and melts together. You see that she now has this bone-like onyx armor that is covering her entire body from head to toe, and the dust that is left under the table begins to cloud and billow and move and grow upwards. What are you doing?
Snowy's immediately getting out of the booth and backing up.
You dart out of the booth just in time as this dust cloud explodes, and it basically fills that entire booth. It spills out into the hallway you're at, and you have to cover your eyes and your mouth as to not inhale it and get it in your eyes. And it shoots up, and you hear this, like, it's almost like nails on a chalkboard wailing. And the rest of you hear this too, as it's just behind you. As this happens, this dust spreads out to every corner of this car that you're in, and you hear the metal of the train creak and buckle.
What's happening? What's going on?
That doesn't sound very good.
Yeah, I guess Calais just kind of rushes out to the hallway.
All you guys hear is Snowy yelling, "Ah, fuck!"
I'll run. Finch will bring their poncho up and run towards wherever Snowy is.
Yeah. As you are getting out of here, your vision is clouded by this dust. So it takes you a moment to get your bearings, and as you do, you hear a creaking and groaning of the metal of the car again, and you hear things just like bolts begin to fly and pull off, and you hear shredding, and the side of part of the roof and the side of the car that the boots are not on just fucking tears off. And as fast as the train is going, it falls and it's just gone. All of this sort of dust swirls back into the spot before the booth and shoots up, and you see just this sort of cacophony of wailing faces just swirl up in this sort of like storm of particles. And stepping out from behind it, you see this woman in this black bone armor with a helmet that covers her face.
Oh no, now she's sexy.
And
a ledger is something you just write things in, right? A normal fast ledger?
this was not a normal ledger.
Okay, gotcha. That's the first mystery solved. I'm getting the real questions out there, guys.
I believe, if I remember correctly, you did take a peek at it. If any, I believe Snowy took a look at it. And it was written in code in multiple different languages, so it was indecipherable.
I imagine that Sylvanus, Clay, and Finch were like starting to make rules or something for this Podloach game that
Oh, yes.
he keeps right, and then all this chaos.
Get some initiative rolls going here.
I got a 5, so
I got a nat 20.
Well,
Yeah.
I need the total.
Oh, 22.
I rolled a 23.
All over the place with the initiative. You guys are on a moving train, and this massive elemental made of has appeared. You see this woman in this black bone armor step out, and basically this entire side that is closer to y'all right here, that part of the train is fucking gone. And like most of the roof is also gone. And you can hear screams from the booths behind you. And Snowy, since this happened to you, makes sense that you are going first and you are reacting. It seems that unfortunately you were not able to convince Tibia to give you more information, and seems she got a little impatient.
Darn me and my bad rolls and negative charisma. I think we're just gonna do the good old ranger set and do hunter's mark on them as my bonus action, and then shoot
on
at
the
them.
elemental or Tibia?
Tibia.
So just so you know, the elemental is in the way.
God damn it.
If you want to try to shoot through it, it doesn't seem entirely solid. I'll let you. It'll be a disadvantage though.
Possibly. Would it hurt it? The elemental?
You have no idea.
Ah, fuck.
You might hit Tibia, you might just hit the elemental, you actually have no idea.
Snowy will do that. Snowy will shoot blind. Snowy's gonna try shooting through the elemental and try and hit Tibia.
Just make a straight roll, no disadvantage.
I can't see her, right? Or can I?
Barely. This thing is like it's a massive cloud of this fine substance. Like, you can kind of see her as the elemental sort of like whips around, and like occasionally you see glances of her dark armor against the color of the elemental, but like it's kind of hard to get a visual on her.
Okay, so does that mean my hunter's mark wouldn't be able to work?
Roll me a perception check.
That would be 15.
I'll say just like in a split second you're able to like pull that off. If you wanted a hunter's marker, I will say that you can do that.
Cool, yes, I would like to do that.
Sure. Go ahead and make your attacks.
That would be 13. I will shoot again. That would be a 29. The damage is 11.
You fire with the attempting to hit Tibia, but as you do, your arrow goes through the elemental and does not quite get all the way through it as it is whipped up in this like storm of like skeletal wailing faces. The elemental seems to have reacted somewhat, but it did not reach Tivia.
Snowy's gonna go one more time. That would be 19.
That hits. Roll damage.
14.
Basically the same thing happens, and your arrow gets whipped up in this like storm of this strange elemental. You feel like it's not doing what it could do, but it's doing something.
Snowy's just gonna take a step back because I think it's very crowded. I don't think she even noticed that Finch was behind her, and I kind of just bump into her and just go
Oh!
yeah, Finch, that, and they're just pointing at the big sand thing.
So it will get an attack of opportunity against you. That definitely doesn't hit you, as like some of this dust just sort of whips and lashes out at you, but you jump back just in time. Calais, this is happening.
Yeah, so Calais sighs and takes out his spear, gives it a couple of twirls around for a stylistic effect, and he says, and this trip was going so well. And he rushes to the front, takes out his shield, and then casts Bless on everyone. I'll cast it at the second level so everybody gets it.
Second level bless, everybody is blessed. Add a d4 to your ability checks and attack rolls. And saving throws. Well, yeah, saving throws and attack rolls, right?
Yes, also, Calais isn't blessed. I can only bless 4 people, so I'm going to bless everybody else. And that'll be it for my turn.
Alright. Finch.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this even?
Finch taps the gun on side. Goes. Can I use my action? This is all just like one thing, right?
Yes. It has many faces, but it is one thing.
I'm going to do it. Sorry, I'm like hyping myself up. I'm gonna cast Blur. My body's sorry, it's looking weird. I can dash, right? Yeah, so if I use my dash and my normal movement, would I be able to get over here?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to like get on the other side of this person. I know they're gonna be able to swipe at me.
Yes. Okay, let's see. It's gonna be a 22 from the elemental.
I'll uncanny dodge that.
So you take 12 points of bludgeoning damage, reduced by whatever your thing does. And Tibia is also going to take an attack of opportunity against you.
That's fair. That's fair of her.
You see, as you try to blur past her, and you see just like lightning fast shooting out like from some of the bone on her armor, this black lance shoot out at you. 17.
That is exactly my armor class. So now I'm gonna cast shield.
You see just a split second of this lance shooting out from essentially her wrist, and just lightning fast, the arcane scroll comes up and it pierces and it just like stops it from jutting out. And as you move past, it breaks through and the lance extends past like where the car ends. And then she grips it in her hands. So you have made it over there. It is her turn.
No, it's not.
She is going to turn to you, and you see this like sort of this horned, onyx-colored, skull-adorned helmet turn towards you, and you see in the sockets of the skull just flash red. And Finch, I need you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Very sexy of you.
With a d4.
Oh, true. Okay, I got a 4 on the d4, so that would be in total 17.
That's just what you needed.
Thank you, Calais.
You feel... it feels like the blood under your skin is starting to rise in temperature for a moment, and then it subsides as you shake off this strange, sudden feeling. Just see the helmet tilt slightly. She is just going to move to, like, the very edge of the car right here. Just take a step towards the edge. Podloach's turn. Podloach is going to pop his head up. Podloach is going to pop. Go invisible. That's Paloch's turn. It is now the something elemental's turn. And it is just going to move over to all of you and engulf you in itself.
Oh no, don't get forward.
You're getting bored.
Yeah.
I need Calais, Snowy, and Sylvanus to make strength saving throws. Yeah, remember that you are blessed.
I rolled a nat 20 plus 5.
With bless, I get a 16.
I got a 9.
Snowy, you are so hyper aware of everything that is happening right now. And as this thing moves into your space, you are already braced and ready for whatever sort of impact it is going to try to inflict on you. Calais and Sylvanus, you are caught completely off guard as this thing engulfs you. You both take 8 points of bludgeoning damage, but also, you both are lifted into the air and you are grappled, both of you, by this elemental. As you are swept up in this dust storm. As this is happening, you realize how thick this thing is, and you realize, oh shit, there's no air in here, and you cannot breathe. Calais, can I get you to roll a concentration check for your bless?
14.
Okay, you're good. So bless is still up, but you and Sylvanus are both restrained by this creature, and you cannot breathe. Sylvanus, you are restrained by this creature, and you cannot breathe.
Okay, great. How do I not be able to breathe myself?
You can take an action to try to escape with an athletics check.
Oh fuck, it hurt me, right? Can I retroactively do a hellish rebuke, or would it not do anything? Because it's fucking sand.
I will let you retroactively do a hellish rebuke if you would like.
Is it not going to do anything again because it's fucking sand?
You don't know what it is. You don't get that for free. It needs to make a dex save. It made a 14.
Nope, not enough. 17 damage. Can I cast spells while I'm grappled, or am I not able?
You can, but not any that rely on that need verbal components.
Are you sure?
You have a mouthful of dust, so...
I'll just try to use my puny little strength score to try and make it. Here I go. Guess what I got? Natural 20. So it's an 18.
You just kick and you thrust yourself out of this elemental and you are spat out over here. You do take 7 points of bludgeoning damage as you fall, and you are currently prone.
I imagine he kind of like did his hellish rebuke and exploded and sort of just exploded himself out of the sand cloud. So I think that's fun. I'd have to take an action to stand up, but I already took my action. So
no, you'd use half your movement, so you can stand up if you want.
Oh, I can? Okay, I would like to stand up, please. I don't think I have any bonus action.
Alrighty. At the top of the round, you all hear something. There is a lot going on. There is the whirl of the elemental, there is the sound of the train and the electricity sparking along the tracks. There is just the blood pumping in your ears. Calais, you don't see this because you're preoccupied at the moment. But Finch, you hear it first. You hear the sound of what can only be described as a revving engine and a chilling, echoing whinnying of like a horse. And you hear this coming up from behind you. Coming into your peripheral and riding up beside the train car, you see a massive black arcane motorbike. On the front and on several different points of it, you can see skulls with singular pointed horns coming out of them, and it is riding alongside the train.
She's just looking back and forth between these two. Like, are you so fucking cool, and why are we fighting?
Snowy, it is.
Hello. If I ran past Tibia, would she also get attack of opportunity on me?
If you run out of melee range with her, yes.
Okay, I guess Snowy's good here.
Well, the bone elemental is preoccupied with choking Calais, so it does not get you.
It's an elemental question mark, right? I was actually gonna ask if I could try and understand it, because elementals speak primordial, right? Yeah, can I try to see if it's saying anything currently? Like,
Without a check, you just hear horrible screeching and wailing.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah, can Snowy roll to see what exactly this thing is?
Roll an Arcana check.
I got 13.
I'm gonna say you've never seen anything like this before. However, you are pretty hyper-vigilant about keeping your wits about you, and just being able to identify undead. And you realize that perhaps this dust is bone.
Upon this realization, Snowy is immediately disgusted. What did you do, even? She even yells that at Tibia. She's just like, what did you do? And she's like gesturing wildly at the bone dust.
She, turns slightly to you and says, "It's none of your concern."
Fuck you! Snowy is very upset. Snowy still has her bonus action, right? I guess she's gonna shift.
You
Boom,
are
bada
shifted.
boom.
Bing bong.
Bing bong.
Bing bong.
So, Calais, you are whirling around engulfed in this bone elemental, and you are suffocating.
Hey, Calais. You got to bone after all. Haha.
Oh, haha.
Well, you can make an athletics check to see if you can get out.
I got a 13.
That is enough for you to break free.
Woo!
Okay.
And you plummet to the ground. You take also 7 points of bludgeoning damage. And can you roll a concentration check for me, please?
That's a 9.
That is not high enough. As you hit the floor, you lose concentration on your spell. So Bless is no longer up.
Alright, so I'm going to use half of my movement to get up, and I'm going to summon my spiritual weapon right in front of homegirl, Tibia. And yeah, I'm going to strike her.
Okay, go ahead and roll your attack.
My attack's going to be 24.
That does hit. You summon your spiritual fear and you thrust it towards Tibia, who, for all intents and purposes, has her back turned. And you see from one of the spines on her armor, it expands into a massive bone shield, and your spear cracks into it. And the bones crack a bit, and then retract. And doesn't flinch.
Oh, you're very gross.
Finch, you just saw that happen.
I did. Finch is looking back and forth, confused. I am under the impression it's just running on magic.
Yes, and Calais, now that you're out of this, you would also see that there is this arcane motorbike made of black bones. I'm not going to make you make a check. The skulls that are adorning this vehicle are unicorn skulls.
Yeah, no, Clay doesn't like this.
Clay shits his pants, question mark?
Yeah, I don't know. Finch is gonna look back and forth between everything, shrug, and then take out the gun, point it at the shield or her, just say, "You know what? I really wish we could talk about this."
Yeah, go ahead and roll to hit.
It is a 26 to hit.
That sure as fuck hits. Go ahead and roll damage.
14 points of damage.
You fire and you see one of the pauldrons on the shoulder facing you expand into another black bone shield as you fire, and you splinter the bone in it, but she seems to be fine. And she says, "I tried asking nicely already."
You didn't talk to me? I think Finch is gonna stare at her for a second, and then sigh. I'm gonna just get ready to try and fight this elemental.
You you said that last thing about not talking to you, and she actually looks as if she's about to step off the moving train, and then she turns on her heel and says, "Right, where are my manners? Take me to the ledger then, and I need everybody to make a wisdom saving throw."
If I get charmed by another person one more time, I think I'll shit. Fuck! Sylvanus! No! Why is it always Sylvanus?
Everyone in the party is able to shake off Tibia's influence on their mind, except for Sylvanus. Suddenly, you think, oh, well, I should just take her to whoever has the ledger. That'll solve the problem. And as Tibia's command sinks deep into your mind, Sylvanus, you have no other choice but to show her where to go.
Well, hold on, everyone. I think we're being a little bit hasty right now. I mean, if she wants the ledger, we're not using it. I don't know why we couldn't just help her out.
Thank you so much for listening to Capricious Provenance. If you like what you heard, don't forget to rate our podcast and follow our social media. This episode, I'd like to give a special shout out to Kes, also known as Hollow Compass, for being our #1 cheerleader. After listening to our prologue, she said this. The performances in the show are just perfect. It reminds me of every reason I fell in love with podcasts, and I feel a dangerous fascination coming on. Thank you so much, Kes, for your support. And if any other listener writes a review for us on any social media platform, we will happily read it out loud at the end of our episodes. See you next time, dear listener.